want to thank you all for being here for our series. It's the last of our series, the ALD Career Conversations. So last year, ALD updated our tagline to taking you from first year to career. And this series looks to do that. It looks to explore the path between your first year in college and a career in hospitality. So we're thankful for our alum like Will, who are here to share their wisdom. And we're grateful to see so many students on the call as well. So Eileen and I will ask some questions, and then at the end, we'll give you a chance to do the same. So Eileen, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Eileen Merberg, Executive Director of Alpha Lambda Delta here in the national office in upstate Rochester, New York.
Great. And as I mentioned, I'm Trish Maxwell, and today we have speaking with us is Will Darrah from the University of Delaware, is where he became an ALD member in 2004. He received his bachelor's in hospitality and tourism, and he's currently the vice president of sales for Amadeus Hospitality. So hello, Will, how are you?
I'm great, Trish. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We like to start with some fun questions just to kind of break the ice. So if you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One meal. I would probably pick sushi because I think you can make sushi veggie, tuna, yellowtail, right? So I could have different ways in which I can dress up the sushi, but I'd probably go sushi. Okay.
If you won an all expenses paid 7-day vacation and there was no COVID to worry about, none of this really happened, where would you go?
I probably would go to either the Maldives or Bora Bora. I've been looking at Tahiti, getting a boat and sailing around the islands. So I actually did last year, well, maybe not last year, the year prior, I went to Croatia and I did Yacht Week. And if you're in college, you probably know what Yacht Week is. And if you don't, type in yachtweek.com. And so a bunch of my friends, 8 of my friends, got onto a sailboat, a catamaran, and sailed around for 7 days and had fun exploring the different islands.
What did you want to be when you were younger?
Oh, it's a good question. I think I wanted to be a veterinarian. I know I loved animals and I wanted to do that. And I also remember when we took my dog into the vet that the veterinarian had a Porsche. And so I saw that and I thought, man, this has got to be the career for me. And then I interviewed him later on and he said that, no, you don't want to be a doctor. The insurance companies are not so great to you. And I had to work really hard for this Porsche and you don't want to do this. So I said, okay, but it didn't deter me away from being a veterinarian. I just fell in love with hotels when I was 16 years old and I went to Bermuda with my family. It was a wonderful family trip. And I realized, my gosh, how awesome would it be to work on an island in the middle of Bermuda, serving people and making sure they have a great time. So that's where I caught the travel bug.
Very cool. Okay. So we're going to shift into ask you a little bit about your career, but before that you were an undergraduate student and an Alpha Lambda Delta member. Of course, you're a member for life, but for your undergrad experience, what role did Alpha Lambda Delta play, if any? Were you involved in the chapter? And really sort of also whether you were involved or not, did you gain any skills from your experience?
Yeah, sure. So, I was young and eager when I was a freshman at University of Delaware. And I think my first semester I got is like a 3.9 or a 4.0. And so then I saw the communication and I was like, oh my God, it's a National Honor Society. And I got hired at a 3.5 and I should join it because I'm thinking to myself, I just have to build my resume, right, for my future career. And so I signed up purely as a resume builder. And I didn't really do much from there with Alpha Lambda Delta, I'm sorry to say. But what I did do within the hospitality major is at University of Delaware, it made me wonder, is there a National Honor Society for the hotel restaurant major? And there is one. It's called Eta Sigma Delta. And I actually brought Eta Sigma Delta to the University of Delaware So I was like, how do I get more National Honor Societies within my curriculum to the university? How do I get faculty to endorse this as a National Honor Society? So I worked very closely within my hospitality major to bring other National Honor Societies to the campus.
So can you talk a little bit about your major and your academic experiences and how they prepared you for your career?
Yeah, so I knew going into University of Delaware, or when I wanted to apply to college, I knew I wanted to be in hospitality. I knew my whole goal in life was to own my own hotel, and whatever it would take me to learn about the career and the different areas. I didn't know if I wanted to go into food and beverage and own my own restaurant or own my own hotel. There's a reason why I kind of went the route that I did into hotels. The margins are better. You only make 30% on food cost. So you have to work twice as hard. You make 60% on the hotel side. So I basically said, well, do I want to work twice as hard or not? And I don't want to work twice as hard. I'd rather go into real estate and hotels. So that's why I picked that track. But what I also really liked about the University of Delaware is their study abroad program. So if I wasn't able to get what I needed from the university and the faculty and the curriculum that they had, they have the most robust study abroad program. So I was able to go to Switzerland in my sophomore year, and I went there for, it's about a 7-month program as your fall semester into your winter. And so I have a Swiss higher diploma in addition to my undergrad degree. And I wanted to learn about food and beverage, and I wanted to become a chef in the kitchen. And they really allowed an all-encompassing experience from the Swiss School of Hotel and Tourism Management. And then my junior year, there was a gentleman, his name is Ali Pirani, and he convinced me, he goes, oh, I have this great idea. We should go to Jamaica and we should do this spa management program. And I was like, oh, me get spas on the beach in Jamaica? You know, you got me sold. So I absolutely took advantage of the study abroad programs to learn about the spa industry, to learn about the various products, to learn about what a spa actually means within, you know, is there a categorization of what spa means? And so, you know, I definitely try to broaden my scope of what do you want to do with your life into food and beverage, spa management, hotel restaurant management. They have a great kitchen on campus called Vita Nova, where the students get to work in the kitchen and become wine sommeliers and learn all about those different aspects as well. So I definitely like broadened my scope and said, how do I just become a sponge, learn as much as possible across the different curriculums and learn from the faculty. And then, you know, that's where I really started and kind of grew my passion over those 3.5 years, because I decided to graduate early, unfortunately.
So I think you probably just touched on the next question we had lined up is you might have touched on it, but I'll ask it anyway in case there's other experiences, because you described how your academic experiences helped your career, but along that path, were there any other experiences? So you've talked about study abroad. Great. If you know, take that opportunity. Alpha Lambda Delta offers scholarships in study abroad. But were there any types of internships or research? Like, I'm not sure what the field in hospitality as an undergraduate allows for research, but internships. And did you just have like a part-time job that you felt like, you know, even at McDonald's, I don't know, that helps?
So yeah, no, it's good questions. So I was fortunate enough, I did not have to have a job in college. I did work over my summers. And so I worked at a country club over the summer for, again, do I want to go into country clubs and get a country club experience? So before I went to college, I worked in country clubs. And then in college, there's always a career fair. And the number one thing I would always tell myself is, don't go. And the reason why I don't want to go to the career fair is because everybody goes to that career fair and everybody walks around and everybody applies to the same jobs at the same booths and does the same thing. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And so my mom, we went to the bookstore and there's a book and it's called like Top 500 Resorts in the World. And I would flip through this book and it had the general manager's name at the end of every one of the featured hotels. And so I would write to the general manager and I would send out 500 letters handwritten for a job. And I heard back from 2 people. And I worked at the Sanderling in Duck, North Carolina. It's a 5-star hotel on the beach. I wanted to go be on the beach during the summer, go surf and go do all that good stuff. And I worked down there for 2 summers. And so, it's funny because, the University of Delaware was like, how did you get the job down in North Carolina? You don't even know anybody down in North Carolina. And it was literally just, how do I find the general manager? How do I just say, hey, I'd love to intern or be in the management trainee program, or learn how the front desk works, or learn how your culinary operation works. And so many hotels are open and receptive to younger people enrolling. They need summer help. You just have to ask, and you just have to say, hey, I'd love to go to the Breakers in Palm Beach, Florida. It's a massive operation. You could go work in Florida. You could go work on the beach. And the fortunate thing I had at the Sanderling was they actually had a student sort of housing. So when I went down there, I didn't even have to find housing. They had all the people who worked at the resort who stayed in certain housing and things like that. So that's one thing that I would say that I definitely excelled at, is trying to go find my own job versus and again, it's great that universities will help you find jobs and bring those industries in. But again, I just look at that as like increased competition. And I would rather just kind of go my own path and reach out to people directly.
Very resourceful. That's great.
Yeah. And then the other thing I would say too is, University of Delaware offered a 4+1 MBA program where I could go to college for 4 years and then graduate and then do 1 year or leave for 1 year and then come back for 1 year and get my MBA. And I started on that track, in which I went to hotel school. And then I said, okay, well, what classes would I have to take to become in the business program? And so I went to Villanova in Pennsylvania over the summers, and I took calculus for engineering. And for whatever reason, I had to take calculus for engineering. They wouldn't let me take calculus for business, even though I was going to go into the business school. I had to take calculus with the engineers. And I realized I absolutely never want to be an engineer. It's absolutely way too difficult. And I just, I made it through the course and it was wonderful. I had a great time, but it's just, math and that increased level of education, I just don't want to do it. And also I got a lot of feedback from my professors at University of Delaware saying, Will, in hospitality, you can always go back and get your MBA. But the great thing about hospitality is that it's really about, people, being a sponge, getting your experience, getting in there and starting to work on site. And so that's what I did. I left the University of Delaware and I went to go work directly on site at a hotel.
So would you say the majority of people that you work with have that master's degree, don't have the master's degree, kind of a mix? What do you think?
So I would say that they don't have a master's degree. The senior level may have a master's degree, but I don't necessarily think it's required in hospitality in order to move up. Depending upon sort of what role you're looking for and want, it doesn't hurt. But for me, the way I look at money is either I could spend, and I went to University of Pennsylvania when I was like 26 years old. And I went to one of their career fairs and I was like, how much is it going to cost me to go to college for 2 more years to get my MBA? And it was $90,000 a year. So I'm thinking to myself, $180,000. And so I went back, my first job out of college, I worked at the Hotel DuPont, 4-star hotel, Wilmington, Delaware. I was a reservations manager. I moved my way up into being a revenue manager, which is the person who does math and prices the hotel. And I was a director of revenue management role. It was the number 3 job in the hotel. I was the youngest revenue manager in the country at 23. At that point, when I was like 23, maybe I was 23, I went to UPenn's program and I said, I believe I'm smart enough to enroll in this master's program and go right into it. And when I went, you sit in a room and they have like the head of DHL, the head of UPS, and you're like, oh my God, these people are like 35 years old and they have like 10 more years of experience and they're VPs, and you feel very out of your league. And then you hear the price tag of $180,000. And then what I decided to do was not do that route. And I started buying houses back at University of Delaware. And so I saved up $50,000, and instead of spending it on my education, I just bought a house and I rented it out for $700 over my mortgage. And I started my own real estate company because I figured if I knew how to price hotel rooms, I would also be able to buy real estate and price rooms on college campuses and make money, and then not actually have to invest in my education. I could just grow my own company. So that's what I've been on a track to do that over the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, and could you talk a little bit more about that? I know before the students joined us, you were talking about your booming Airbnb side hustle. So can you talk about that and how it relates to hospitality and tourism?
Yeah, sure. So in hospitality, what you have to realize is that there's an owner of the hotel, right? That person owns the asset, the hotel, right? Everybody who works at that hotel, all you do is you create a dividend for that owner. When you hit your goals, that just produces a return on his capital, right? Well, the person who makes all the money is the person who owns the hotel. And when you go work at that hotel, I'm not saying you don't make money, you do. You just don't make as much as the person who owns the building. Well, how do you own the building? And then how do you have everybody work for you? And so I didn't come from money. I don't have any money. So I started all of the money that you make. And I'll tell you this, I got my first job out of college. I was making $33,000 and as a reservations manager. My parents were nice enough to let me live in their second house in Maryland. And I had a Mercedes-Benz convertible. I thought I was a hot shot. And then I quickly realized after about 3 months of paying for parking in Wilmington, Delaware at $300 a month, it was cheaper for me to drive my Mercedes to the parking lot and ride a bus 45 minutes for $1.15 a day. I didn't have to pay for parking. I didn't have to pay for gas, but what I could do is I could save that money. So I saved that money up to $29,000. Now, back then, you only had to put 10% down for a house. So I found a house right off the college campus where I went to college, where I paid a landlord $500 per bedroom. And I said to myself, if I could buy a 3-bedroom house, I'm going to pull in $1,500 a month or more and start making money. Because if in hospitality, what you have to realize is it may take you a while to go from the 33,000 to 40 and 40 to 50 and 50 to 60. Well, I don't want anybody to tell me what I'm worth. I'll take the 33, I'll save as much of that as possible, and then I will go invest in my first property. When I bought my first property, I got 32 phone calls in 7 days on renting my property. And they rented it for $2,200 a month, and my mortgage was $1,500. So if you do the math, $700 times 12 months, you're making an extra somewhere $9,000. And you didn't have to go back to your boss and say, excuse me, I'm worth more, I'd like a raise. You don't have to do that. You have to work hard at your job, and eventually those raises and those milestones will come. And so I was like, okay, I'm making 33, but I'm now making like almost 43 because I just changed my outcome of having an investment property. And then came my raise. So then I was making 51 at the Hotel DuPont, but now I'm really making 61 because I have my first house. Well, that gives me more of the ability to save money. And so I worked at the hotel for 2 years, and I had one house. And then, so now I have 9 houses. I have 60 tenants, and, just numbers wise, probably about $200,000 a year in rental income is what I bring in per year. And so basically now, it's funny because I'm sitting in my parents' dining room. We were talking about this before. So I also believe that everything you own should be on Airbnb. Airbnb gives you a vehicle to literally leave where you live right now. If somebody wants to pay you more money, you say, no, I would never do it. Really? For $500 a night, would you do it? Maybe I would do it for $500 a night. Okay, we'll put it on Airbnb for $500 a night. And so why I'm sitting here is because I put my actual house in Scottsdale. I did this twice. I put my actual house in Scottsdale on Airbnb, and it was for $1,000 a night. I built a really beautiful house. And I had a billionaire flying over from Dallas, renting my house for 10 nights in a row at $10,000 a pop. And I was like, this is insane. And then I had somebody reach out to me and say, I don't want it for per night. I want it for a full year. And so I worked out a deal with this guy, and he came in and he took my house for a full year. And so that guy's in there for a full year. Well, he paid me enough money that I could go buy another house. And I figured, well, when he wants to move out, then I'll move back in, and the house that he bought me, I'll turn that into an Airbnb. And so that's what I did. So now I live in that house. But then now this guy over here has extended his contract with me on a month-to-month basis. But he's like, I don't really want to move out. And I'm like, well, it sucks because I really like that house. But now I'm in another house. So the house that I'm in right now, it's a nice house. My mortgage is $1,600 a month, and it's March. Spring training baseball, Waste Management Open, Barrett-Jackson Car Show. It's the collision of all of the events in Scottsdale. Right now, I'm getting $6,800 a month on Airbnb on my primary house when my mortgage is $1,600. So that's going to pay your mortgage for 4 months. And then now I just go right back in and I change the rates of my listing on Airbnb. I'm like, oh, I want $150 a night or $170 a night. And Airbnb will help you set your rate with you. But the cool thing about Airbnb, and again, from a hotel perspective, is it helps you set your rate for your inventory that you have available for whatever the season is. And so you can make money now as an independent person or through hospitality and setting rates for hotels. And so I think the scope of what you're able to learn through Airbnb or through hospitality, you're seeing a blend between real estate and rates and hotels and how it's all coming together.
So yeah, just what is it that you do? And what's the paycheck that you get that's not your side hustle? And describe sort of a typical day for yourself. But also I'm going to tack on COVID. If you could talk a little bit about how this pandemic has impacted the industry, what you think the future is. So that's sort of a lot of questions. So go ahead and start with what you do.
Yeah. So when I was on the hotel side, I just wanted to be a sponge and learn everything. And so I was a reservations manager. And then I moved into revenue management because I wanted to price the hotel and take reservations. And then after that, I ran a parking garage. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to be outside in the snow in Wilmington, Delaware, running a parking garage. That's crazy. But I did that. And I yielded parking spots, meaning I changed the price. So when Obama came to town back in the day, I jacked up the rates for all the local people in Wilmington, Delaware. And everybody got really upset at me because we usually charge $6 on the weekends, and special event Obama parking was $25 that weekend. And people didn't like that too much, but that's okay. Cause when you're a revenue manager, you care about money. So then after that, I was like, okay, I feel like I've kind of done what I needed to do in the hotel industry, but what I really liked was technology and how technology and digitization was impacting hotels, right? You hear about Google and the OTAs like Expedia and Booking.com, and you hear about, digital advertising. And so the company that I actually worked, that I worked with at the hotel level, the vendor that I worked with, their name was TravelClick. And TravelClick owns all of the data in the hospitality industry. We own the backward and forward-looking data. And so I actually got a job with them, which moved me out to Scottsdale. And I worked as a director of e-commerce for 2 years there, moved east, and 2 years on the East Coast. Then they moved me to Las Vegas, where I became a regional director overseeing all of their products out of Las Vegas for 2 years. And then after that, I moved back to Scottsdale to take over basically a booking engine. So if you go to like Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas, beautiful hotel, and type in Cosmopolitan Las Vegas and click on reservations, that whole framework is TravelClick's framework. And so we've got 7,500 hotels on our booking engine. And my recent role change is I now oversee the business intelligence solutions, the website solutions, the digital media solutions, the booking engine solutions, and the CRM solutions. So everything end to end that an independent hotel needs, from seeing an ad, driving it to a website, booking the hotel, getting the guest communications, and then all the data that is underlying. That's what Amadeus Hospitality, and whom I work for, does today. So that's my job.
Yep.
And paycheck wise, I would just say, north of $250,000 is what you can make as a technology vendor. So when people say, well, I feel like there's no money in hospitality, maybe at a hotel level, because at a hotel level, there's one guy who makes the most amount of money. It's the general manager. The general manager makes the most, then comes the director of sales, and then comes all the other aspects of the hotel. But if you like hospitality, there's a system, a technology system that you use on property, whether it be the property management system or the sales and catering system, the wedding system. All of those are technology systems that are owned by vendors. And you could go work for one of those vendors if you really like sales and you really like that industry that you're in. And technology is where there's a lot of money. So that's where I went. I kind of went into the technology arena. And then where are we now with COVID, post-COVID, things like that? So that as we all know, hospitality was directly impacted. COVID hit, hotels are closed. Whoever thought that travel would be so upset? That's what we do. We work 52 weeks a year, right? We get 2 weeks vacation. We work 50 weeks a year for our 2 weeks of vacation. And now those 2 weeks of vacation, they were taken from you, right? COVID took those from you. And so then you go, I want them back. And I want them back with a vengeance. They're actually calling it revenge travel. So post-COVID, there is so much pent-up demand. You're so angry that time was taken from you on all of these wonderful vacations that actually the forward-looking outlook for travel is huge. The demand is huge. We're already seeing it in our data. Hotels, obviously the vaccines are here. We're starting to get better. But what will be absolutely critical is so many hotels furloughed and laid off their employees. And now there's going to be a massive rehiring post-COVID because the demand is there. People want to travel and they want to stay, but the hotels are not ready. The hotels haven't even been open for 6 months or a year. And so what they're actually going to struggle with is like engineering issues. Like I stayed at a hotel last week. I had two issues. One is they had problems with the sinks. I don't know why. They just had problems with the sink in my first room. And then when I went to the second room, the air conditioner unit wasn't operating correctly. And I'm like, it's probably because nobody's been turning on the air conditioning for the last 4 or 5 months. And so, the engineering departments are trying to get these, Titanics back up and running. And their people are, the employees are like, oh my gosh, they're overwhelmed by the amount of people that want to stay. So again, it depends on your state and kind of what's going on, but I see the travel outlook very bright. And I think that there's a lot of demand that's coming.
Yeah, that's promising. That's great for everybody here. I hope you find success with that. Trish, that's the last.
Yeah. So you talked about hospitality being a relational and a relationship building industry. And that's how you got, your positions and your experiences. Did you have any formal mentors? Is that something that people do in hospitality, or what's your thoughts on mentorship?
Yeah, so I think mentors are phenomenal and fantastic. And if you can find somebody, hold on to them because you can definitely follow them in their career. I didn't have any mentors when I was in college. My family does not come from hospitality. My parents don't know anybody in hospitality. And so therefore, I just felt like I was a personable person and I'd be able to go out there and make it. So what I will say is that the faculty at University of Delaware, and I'm sure on your college campuses, they are the connections. And so I partnered with, her name is Donna Laws. She's phenomenal. She's like the admin to the dean of students of the hotel school, but she also knows and has a relationship with all of the students who have just graduated. And so, I would tap her, I would tap Bob Nelson at the time, who was the dean of students. And I would basically try to figure out like where do I go in my career? What should I do? So I really tapped into the faculty because honestly, I felt like they had the best connections that I could get. And then, like I said, I put my resume out there to a number of different places. And I had a lot of conversations with people, but I would say it wasn't as easy for me right out of college finding a job because I just didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a connection. What I would say is when I got my first job, that's when I looked up to my general manager and I said, do I want to take this job with this hotel? Do I believe that he's smart? Do I believe I can trust him with my career? Is he going to teach me things that, because I was going after knowledge and education. Put money and title to the side when you're first graduating from college. Who cares? All you care about is experience, knowledge, education, being a sponge, sucking it all in. And so that's what I looked for. And so somebody who would move me around the hotel, who would show me the different aspects of the hotel. And that's what I got in 2.5 years. Reservations manager, revenue manager, parking manager, front of house operations. I got like 4 different departments in 2 years, which is pretty rare. So it was kind of like move around, learn what you like to do. And then if you really want to go into food and beverage, we'll plop you there and then you could work there for the next 10 years. But I wanted to kind of keep on moving around and trying to figure out what I like. But it was always in my job that I was able to find a mentor or somebody. And I would say that most people, just like I'm doing today, I want to give back. You know, I have had a lot of great experiences throughout my career. I love talking to students and giving them insights as to, hey, I'm thinking about this, or what should I do here? You know, I do it with all of my friends. They come to me, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. Hey, I think I want to invest in this. And I'm just somebody to bounce ideas off of, to try to, you know, get you to think openly about, is that what you want to do? And so anyway, I just try to be a helpful resource to anybody. And like I said, I think you got to seek people out. Some people don't want to be your mentor, and that's okay. That's no harm, no foul. But when you do find somebody and they trust you and you trust them, it's a great relationship. So just try to form as many relationships as you can, you know, when you get into the real world.
Great advice. Okay, so we are gonna open it up to any questions we might have from our participants. Feel free to turn your mics on and your cameras on, you want, or just mic, or chat, type a question in the chat. But if there's anybody that has anything they want to ask our guest today.
Well, thank you so much, Will, for sharing all this information with us today. I do have a question, and it's about the side hustles that you mentioned. So I have different passion projects in different areas that I'm interested in pursuing. So at what point does it become, I guess, a second business or something that you need to monetize or even legalize in a sense? So how do you find the balance with that, and what steps do you take to, I guess, make that a second business that you, for yourself, or something you enjoy doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what is your side hustle?
So my sister and I, we actually crochet. So we make different crocheted materials, hats, scarves, beanies, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've been doing that and selling that on our college campus to different students. And so if we see, if we were to expand that, what would that look like, and what would the steps be to make that an official business that's like on the side for us?
Yeah, so you're in an official business. I don't need to tell you that you have an official, but you are a business. If you are creating a product and you're selling it, you're a business. So, you know, so if you're thinking about expansion and how you do it, right? Etsy is a great place to go online to be able to sell that exact type of product, obviously on your college campus. But again, I think it's just you and your sister right now. But the question becomes is, you and your sister can only make how much in a day? Maybe you need a third person. Maybe you need a fourth person, right? So depending upon your volume and your demand, maybe you start expanding with an additional person, right? Maybe you think about different patterns or things like that as to how you want to be able to sell your product. So, but I mean, I get it's a side hustle. So the question becomes is, whatever you're doing, you're going to school right now, or right during your day, you know, you still have 24 hours in a day. So you do your work here, and then you got an extra 5 or 6 hours, and it seems like you're utilizing that time well. I think it just depends on, you know, your capacity. You know, are you tired? Are you doing too much and you need help? Because there's people that can help you, right? You got to pay them, but hopefully you're selling your crochet for twice the amount that you're hiring somebody to create it for, right?
Thank you so much for that wonderful advice. Thank you for that.
Great,
Sure.
thanks, Sam, for the question. That's great. Anybody else while you're here? Okay, I think
Hey,
we are.
Will,
Oh, maybe.
Will.
There we go. Hi.
Will, can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
Do you
you
know
sure
friends?
can.
Are these all your friends and fans?
Yeah,
I think we went to Jamaica together, did we not?
oh, you bet.
Oh my gosh.
Bet. I'm part of his fan club.
Oh, nice.
Hey, let me ask you this from a corporate standpoint. do you anticipate that most workers, employees, are going to return to their offices and work the way we used to work pre-COVID? Or have things changed in a way that companies are going to fundamentally change the way they work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the statistic is by 2025, 50% of people will work remote. And that's now been accelerated with COVID. So we may get to that 50% of people are working remote well before 2025. So I absolutely do believe that corporations are looking at their people. Do they have to really be in the office? Or can we save on the commercial real estate space and we can have these people work from home? The fact is, right, we're on a Zoom right now, Teams, Microsoft Teams. There's a lot of programs right now that we're all on, you know. Do I think that there's nothing better than human interaction and being in the same room with somebody? But I think that the proliferation of WeWork and using WeWork spaces to be able to have businesses, oh, well, we could just go rent it for the time that we need it, but then everybody else can work remotely. You don't need to then have this huge office building. Even though WeWork did well and then it fell off the map, and now it's gonna come back, and it's gonna come back big time, because people are only gonna utilize, they're gonna be really efficient, and they're gonna utilize that WeWork space specifically when you need to. But if you don't need to be in the office, here we are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as the impact on business travel, there are some who argue that because businesses like to do deals and transactions on a face-to-face and personal sort of basis, go away. On the other hand, again, based on all of what you have said and what we are also seeing, it appears that there will continue to be more Zoom meetings, more Skype meetings than before. Yeah. And that is probably going to cut down on the volume of business travel that we used to have before. What's your take on that?
You're absolutely right. So there's a couple of things. One is like Zoom fatigue. That's like becoming a new word. Like people are just getting tired of being on Zoom from home. But the bottom line is that, companies are not going to travel as much as they used to. The liability cost, if I am traveling for work and I get COVID on the job, oh, no. The liability that these companies have, they don't want that. So again, until vaccines are pretty prevalent, or maybe you get it. So, I mean, we at Amadeus, we're the largest global technology company in hospitality. We're saying to our team, if you have to travel and the customer's comfortable with meeting with you, then go do it. But it's really on a case-by-case basis. Number one, we're still watching our expenses. We don't want to go crazy because we're not selling as much as we used to. Right. So I do think it's going to be a longer turn in terms of companies feeling comfortable and putting people back out on the road. And, the airlines cut back their airline inventory pretty dramatically. So when you go to the airport, you'll say, but that's so weird, my plane's full. Yeah, but they're only flying like 3 flights direct now when they used to do 15. Exactly. So, everybody's kind of trimmed down. And then when you say, well, if I get my vaccine, can't you just scale up immediately? No. To go from 3 planes to now 15, everybody's got to rescale up. So it's going to take us potentially up until 2024 to 2025 to rebound to those 2019 levels and get everybody vaccinated and everybody back on the travel bandwagon. But I think, look, there'll be the early adopters, as there will always be. I just saw that Life is Beautiful Music Festival is going back to Las Vegas in September. First music festival in the United States, taking a gamble there. And so, look, I think, I don't know, is it September that people feel comfortable with going to concerts and music venues again, outdoors?
Right.
But I also think that, there will be people who say, oh, I would never do that. I couldn't do that right now. So it's going to be, some people will be late adopters, early adopters, things like that. But yeah, business travel is kind of it's not in a great spot right now. That's for sure. I think it'll be the last to rebound.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, leisure seems to be getting back, but business travel is not as much.
Businesses, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well-
And of course, and then when you look at the different states, the Sun Belt states, the Florida, the Arizona, the San Diego, right? All the warm spots, you know, everybody's getting tired of the cold in Canada and in the Northeast, everybody's going down. Hey, if you can work remote, you're going down to Florida, you're enjoying the weather. And again, I go back to, why is Airbnb booming right now? Because you don't have to work from your home right now. You can go down to Florida, you can rent somebody's Airbnb for 2 months. Their furniture's already there. The Wi-Fi is already dialed in. You just move in and you work. And that's why Airbnb has just been booming in this time. While hotels are trying to figure out, they have to open up 200 rooms at a hotel.
Yeah.
Airbnb, boom, open.
We are going
Thank you.
to, thank you so much. Yeah, so that's great. Thank you so much. I think we'll need to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Thanks for some great questions, great dialogue. And thank you, Will, so much for all your time. Great advice, great successes you've had that we can all learn from and hopefully maybe replicate in our own careers in hospitality.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Trish. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.